Hi, everybody. I'm Leon Thomas, and you're here for another episode of Real Thoughts and Conversations. On Real Thoughts and Conversations, we talk about issues that are prevalent on the minds of many folks in different industries. We talk about things that are very important to those in society, but we don't have politicians on here. We don't have folks that give you talking points. We have real people talking about real things right here on Real Thoughts and Conversations. Here we go. Hey, everybody, welcome again to another episode of Real Thoughts and Conversations. I'm Leon Thomas. This is a production of the Leon Thomas Group. To learn more about our fantastic team, please go to the leonthomasgroup.com. Today, we're having the second of a two-part conversation about race relations in business, and we're really honing in and focusing on the hospitality industry. Let's bring on Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. Miranda, you were with me on, you were with me, when was that? When did we do our other show? That was on Tuesday. On Tuesday, when we talked and we had some replays about that, we had a pretty cool conversation. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. Absolutely. And I'm
Yeah.
hearing from other people that they thought it was a cool conversation as well.
Oh, great. That's good. That's good. Yeah. I got some text messages from folks that said they thought it was a great conversation, great subject to talk about, and they asked for more. And I also got some text messages and even a couple of phone calls from people that said, you know what? All this diversity talk, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. It's not needed in hotels. And I'm like, let's talk about that some more. And so we had some pretty cool conversations with friends and all about that as well. So let's do this, Miranda. You and I, we decided we would have a second show, and you recommended some folks that are in your network, some colleagues of yours that would be great guests. And I said yes. And I think we're going to have another great conversation about race relations. So why don't you go ahead and introduce us to our guests for today?
Absolutely. And these are two people that I've had amazing conversations about just this very topic with, which is why I wanted to have them join. It's Kathy Martin, who is my colleague at Florida International University, and Omari Head, who's with Paramount Lodging Advisors.
All right, great. Kathy,
Yes,
good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy Friday.
Oh yeah, it is a groovy Friday. Yeah, thanks for being here. And Amari, how you doing?
I'm phenomenal. How are you this afternoon?
I am great. Oh, you're starting off with big words on me, man. That was phenomenal. Oh wow. No, just joking. So listen, let's start with you, Kathy. Tell us about your hospitality industry background.
So I say I'm true blooded in the hospitality fields. I have over 14 plus experience in hospitality. So that ranges from hotels, cruise lines, property management, airlines. Hospitality is in my blood. It's my baby, hence why I'm still in hospitality now, but in the higher education portion. So really preparing students to gain industry experience and to be successful in the industry. So that's what a little bit about me.
Yeah, I like it. And the fact that you're bringing industry experience and able to help students, that's something that I hope the students recognize. That's very valuable, right?
They love
That's
it.
really,
Absolutely, absolutely. And Miranda can tell you I'm real world talk. So it's a straight shooter, but I feel like them seeing that this is not textbook advice and counseling and guidance that I give them. This is really from my experience in the industry and helping them to be able to kind of guide their way into a successful, hopefully, career.
yeah. I like it. I like it. Omari, tell us what you do and tell us about your background, please.
So I'm Washington, D.C. based. I'm a director with Paramount Lodging Advisors, hotel advisory consultant firm, specialize in acquisitions and dispositions of hotels. So on the real estate side of it, my background is actually started out in hotel operations. So started out managing hotels, did the management trainee program after undergraduate at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and worked my way through the ranks and discovered that there was a little bit of a glass ceiling there once you kind of look around at a certain point and started pivoting in different angles, including higher ed. And I still serve as an adjunct today. and recently founded National Institute of Lodging Education, which is a nonprofit focused on educating first-time Black and Latinx hotel owners about the industry.
Oh, I like it. I like it. So you're educating people about the industry, and you say that that's Black, and who else is it in your target demographic?
And Latinx.
Okay, great, great. Now, how can folks learn more about that organization?
I'll drop the link here, but it's lodgingeducation.com.
Okay, great. I'm glad you're doing that. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the ownership side first. Okay. Years ago, when I worked in hotels, first when I would go to industry conferences, I never saw anyone Black. I'm sorry, I did. Those working at the conference were Black. I didn't see any other Black attendees. Right, there were few and far between. And one of the things that the industry started pushing then, and I'm talking late 70s, early 80s, was we need more Black general managers. And that went on to become, let's have the conversation about Black ownership. How are we standing there now? Amari, let's start with you. What's the industry doing? Have you seen any improvement in that area in Black ownership?
So the industry has done a little bit better, but it's one of those things where if you're at the bottom and you come up just a little bit, I mean, you still got to acknowledge it, but we're still pretty close to the bottom. So Black ownership is estimated to be at sub 1% of all hotels. So what that looks like is over the past, I want to probably say even 90 days, two major brands, specifically Marriott and Wyndham, have rolled out initiatives focus on the equity inclusion of trying to reach out and get some new Black owners, not just Black, but other underrepresented populations as well. And it makes sense. It makes smart business sense. And this is something that I've been advocating for years, as well as others and other associations. And we've been saying, hey, come up with these special programs because they work. Choice Hotels has been very aggressive with that. Over the past few years. And I mean, they've had great success where people are developing these hotels and they're getting a great foot into the door with ownership.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing all that information. And Kathy, from an ownership perspective, I know you work with students, but you have some industry experience as well. What types of questions do students ask? What are their concerns about becoming owners and advancing beyond that management role? What are they talking about?
I mean, I think if we're going to be honest, so it depends on the students. Obviously, yes, this is a diverse student population, but a lot of students definitely since 2020, and obviously a lot of, what occurred there, obviously the topics have been a lot on DEI. And a lot of them, their main concern is, or not even a concern is, but they're like, we don't see a lot of people that look like us sitting in these C-suite positions. Obviously, we do encourage them to go to amazing events like NABHOOD Conference, which for a lot of students to see that many, let's say, hotel owners or developers that look like them is such an encouragement. But I believe for a majority of them, they want to know, like, how can I grow and achieve successfully in my career, but past the front office manager, past the director of operations? Because to be honest, unfortunately, today, still in 2022, even locally where we're at here, down in Florida, and especially in South Miami, there's not that many GMs still that look like them. And unfortunately, even for myself, if I go back when I was in school, majority of the guest speakers who were come in and they said, hey, we have a guest speaker from a hotel or an owner, they didn't look like myself. So I definitely right now, a lot of students want to know what these companies are doing to create a pipeline to see more of them sitting in these positions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when Kathy says that there's not many people of color in those positions, I think the last report I read was that there's only 3 Black GMs in South Florida or in Miami.
That is correct.
3.
That is correct.
Wow. So is that something that needs to be pushed with owners? Is that brand related, that brands need to do something about that? What are your thoughts on how we solve that, how we increase those numbers? So Miranda, let's start with you first on that one. We'll get everyone's opinion on that. What do we do? What has to be done there?
Well, we know that there's a population in the lodging industry, a huge population of people of color. So I think it's just a matter of giving them opportunities to rise into those ranks, right? And I'm a huge proponent of mentorship. I think mentorship is just incredibly important in any career. So that's where I would start.
Hmm. Omari, what do you think?
I agree. I think that in addition to mentorship, we need coaching and we need sponsorship. And sponsorship is going to be the biggest piece to that puzzle, which is who is out there advocating for you to get these roles. Because at the end of the day, there's an issue within kind of a lot of people's subconscious, right? Which is that if you see this happening, you recognize this, like percentages don't match up, percentage of the population don't match up to senior leadership, right? Which is how it'd be great if it was equitable. But people not seeing that, they somehow feel that those populations aren't deserving of those roles, and that's how they're able to sleep at night saying it's okay that they don't have it. But it's really not. That's such a daunting number of 3 in South Florida. And then you even start talking about specifically luxury and you start getting into full service hotels. I'd be interested to know those stats as well. So to answer your question, that's why my push is really on the ownership side, because the owners can have those conversations. As somebody who's invested in hotels before, you can have those conversations with the management company of where are you recruiting? You're located from this university, you're X amount of miles from this university that has a National Society of Minorities and Hospitality chapter. Maybe you can't find a GM there, but you can find an AGM, you can find a front office manager. We can get somebody pipeline. There's a choke point that is happening in the pipeline that's preventing these people from rising up. And so it's either that you believe that people aren't qualified, or the other thing is you have to start believing that there is an intentional effort not to allow these people to pass through. So I'm going with the latter. But I think a lot of it has to do with, like you said, the brands have a challenge making those mandates because they don't own a lot of the hotels. And so it's really incumbent upon the management companies, and our third-party operators kind of have the luxury of kind of hiding behind, like nobody knows about the third-party operators, right? So they kind of get to hide behind that. So I would say it's really incumbent upon the ownership to really push that. But again, if you have an ownership that's sub 1%, you'll yield these results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kathy, what do you think? How do we get that number up from 3?
That's tough because the talent is there, right? And I always say that I never want anyone or any company to feel like we have to now promote this person or we have to now find and make AGM. You don't have to. The talent, the skills, the experience are there. I have so many fellow colleagues and friends that have been in the industry and I left it and they're still there. And to see that they're kind of still at a midpoint, right? Which technically by now with their experience, they should be more than that more than that position. It kind of concerns me. But I feel like it's 2 point, right? So I feel that one of it is there are some companies, one that I used to work for, and I think it's great that they're doing that they're taking a lot of step back and kind of evaluating or pulling reports and saying okay, let's have honest conversations about all these properties that we have, right? And how many of these properties are general managers of diverse ethnicity, that are not just men and women of color. And if you start to see that there's a pattern that there are not that many or the percentage is low, okay, so what's stopping that? And I have seen that there are a lot of companies that are seeing that manager and training programs are working, especially recruiting from university and schools like ours here at FIU in the hospitality school, where the talent is there and it's being developed. So a part of it, I feel like definitely is getting mentorship. I encourage my students all the time, go to LinkedIn, or see some of the guest speakers that we have. If you connect with that person's story, it's okay to ask for mentorship. Mentorship is free, right? So most people like to provide that guidance. But also making sure that you get with some of these companies that are trying to create these manager and training programs that are pipelining fast, students to be able to get into these general managers positions, and also companies that are really practicing what they preach. A lot of people are saying we're trying to push diversity and all of this, but it's like, okay, we want to see the numbers. Where's the pictures of people that look like us? So there are some companies that we have seen that definitely see that there has been an issue. There still is. And they're doing things through recruitment efforts, through mentorship programs to make sure that now, as Amari was saying, there's no chokehold here. How can we get these talents past the front office director up into these GM positions.
Mhm. After the show that we did earlier this week, one of the text messages and some of the comments were about hard work. That in the hotel business, in the hospitality industry, if you work hard, you can get promoted through the ranks. And the one person that I had a very lengthy telephone conversation with used himself as an example and said, "Look at me. I started as a night auditor and I moved up and I moved up." And then he pointed the finger at me and said, "Leon, you did the same thing." And I said, yeah, I did, but I don't see it happening now. And Amari, I was part of a management training program. I had mentors, right? I had folks that took pride in being able to say, "Leon's one of my guys. Look at what he's doing now." But when I talk to students and those that are new in the industry, or Kathy, as you say, they've been in the industry for a while in that same job, they don't get that same feeling. And so it's interesting that folks would say, "Work hard, work hard, work hard, and you're going to make it," because we all probably know folks that have worked hard, worked hard, worked hard, and haven't gotten there. So it's so important that folks like us are able to say, "Yeah, you worked hard, but what else are you doing?" So, we're not just pointing the finger at owners and all saying, "Look, you got to do better." I just heard all of you give some advice on what students and others in the business can do also to help make it better for everyone. And that's one of the goals. I hope we can do that. Before we take a quick break, Miranda, you and I talked about a recent survey, a study that was done that talked about the number of minorities in C-suite positions. Can you fill us in on that information? Tell us who did the research and share some of those numbers, please.
Sure. I don't have the exact numbers right in front of me, but we were referring to the Castell report, and the 2021 report, I believe it was, or the 2020. Irregardless, the most recent iteration of this report that's come out has shown that the population of color has actually lost share of the hospitality industry market versus gaining it, which is really unfathomable considering all the noise that companies were making in support of increased Black representation in their companies, right? So it's just a little concerning that all this talk was being talked and yet the numbers have fallen.
Yeah. Back in 2020, that's all it was. Amari, Kathy, we talked about this some on the show. Miranda and I did on Tuesday that in 2020 it was DEI for conferences, let's say meetings. It didn't matter the industry. It was, we're going to have something on DEI. We've got to do better. And then in 2021, it was, do you know a Black speaker that would come and talk for free? And now it's many conferences. It's not even on the agenda. So all that talk in 2020, Mari, let's start with you. Have you seen? I know you talked about Wyndham's program and Choice being aggressive with it. Is there more that brands can do, that the hotel companies can do? And tell us about some good things that are happening as well.
So the good things that are happening is that it is still a relevant talking point. However, we're struggling a little bit with doing multiple things, and a lot of people don't know how to necessarily put their toe into equity and inclusion efforts. And the thought process, I guess, is we don't want to just focus too much on one group. And I always jokingly tell people, like, you have to service all of these groups. And yes, it's hard, but also no response is a response. So be cognizant of that. The other piece to that too is that no matter how much work you do, whether it be at the corporate level, at the conference level, you still have a significant amount of gatekeepers, and that's where the choke points are forming. So as somebody who went through a management training program and had issues, that I believe were related to race, then I joined another company. I had issues at the property level, and I was strategically placed there by somebody corporate and diversity, still had issues, right? Because of gatekeepers. So on the conference level, and what we're seeing currently is there is more of I'm seeing that there's a little bit more thoughtfulness. Now, again, it's if you were doing absolutely poor, like 0, and you all of a sudden get 2 speakers out of 25 or 30, that are BIPOC, okay, great. You know, you're trying, but again, you're not trying hard enough, because everybody on this call can name, we can put together a whole conference of nothing but melanated people and diverse genders, right? And all the intersectionality that exists there. So I say all that to say that there are companies that are pushing forward on it, but I think they're just struggling with where do they on investing the time into it, because a lot of it seems so reactionary. Because if you recall, right after, like at the height of 2020, the world's on fire, all these things are happening, and then it pivoted to stop Asian hate, and nobody's saying that anymore. Like that just kind of went away. So these companies they're just having all these knee-jerk reactions. They can't get their press releases out quick enough before they have to turn around and do another one. But they're not addressing any type of sustainable plan that produces a sustainable change. And that's what I think that they're trying to work towards, and they're just struggling to gain footing.
Kathy, what do you think? What good things have you heard that companies, corporations are doing, and what else needs to be done? Kathy, what do you think?
I mean, I think that it's also outside of employment. I had a guest speaker in my class, and he said something that I felt was really, really impactful. So obviously, he said that there's still work that needs to be done in diversifying a lot of high positions. And we talked about C-suites for a while, right? And a lot of students were like, I still see the same people in C-suites, you know? However, he said that, you know, he had to have a conversation just with his marketing department, because they were talking about like, okay, we're rolling out this new campaign and it's going to be on today's family. What does it look like? You know, and they're really proud about it. And they wanted to roll out, you know, with their new properties that they were going to be opening, and like the branding change and all that. And he saw the first marketing and he said, well, whose family is this? You know, and I started laughing because he's like, it's this, and whose perception of today's family is this? And at first he said that like it was kind of like a quiet point, and he was like, oh, you know, I need my job, you know. And then he said that like literally the director of marketing was like, you know what, thank you, because can you kind of go into a little bit more about that? And he's like, this person doesn't look like me. Today's family is not just always a male and woman, you know, a man and female. And he goes, so I think that again, who are we also trying to attract as guests? Does this represent not only the families that are coming in as guests? So, you know, he said it took a lot because it's been weighing on him, you know, about companies saying we're making change. But then sometimes you see that sometimes they're not realizing that we're still not making changes. So I think that a lot of companies now are being open to hearing as well feedback, you know, from either their team members, their employees. Again, like I said, we've been having some really great conversations with recruiters. We had a meeting with general managers, and DEI was a big topic. And, you know, I said, I have to say it, you know, students nowadays, they're looking at topics. They're looking to see, you know, what company is really putting in to make sure they have a successful career. And maybe what you think is successful to them is not to what they're thinking. So they want to see you guys actually map out what's the plan for them. And a lot of them are having these conversations with their corporate offices and trying to make sure that they develop these plans and ensuring that students or, you know, their talent continues to get developed and it does not get stopped in there. So we've been seeing some work. But like I said, to have that conversation there and hearing that also a lot of employers are saying, hey, like if you see something, if you want us to make more change, if you're seeing like more positions, let us know. I think it's important that they also make sure that they have that open dialogue for their employees. So I think that that's also another good point that I've been seeing that companies are trying to do.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you for that insight. We have about 2 minutes, just a minute and a half to go. Miranda, what do you think? What needs to be done?
Well, I think Omari and Kathy outlined it very, very well. I just think that there needs to be intention on what I believe to be the right side of things, right? So intentionally, for me as an educator, intentionally bringing in a diverse set of guest speakers so that everybody sees somebody that looks like them, right? Intentionally having a network that is diverse in nature, intentionally offering to help the student that has so much potential that just needs someone to help them, right? So for me, all I would add is just an emphasis on intention.
Yeah. And you know, to take that word intention, and as I look at our guests for today, Amari, you're in a position where you're working with owners, right? But you've also started an organization to help folks that are underrepresented learn more about the industry. So not only are you saying we need to do more, you are doing it. And so my hats off to you, sir, for doing that. Kathy, you're communicating with students to share your industry background in a formal educational format location, right? You're doing something to help. Miranda, you and I met through a conference that you had about diversity in the hospitality industry. You're an advocate. You're doing something. And so I hope that we get more folks that see there's an issue and begin to start doing something like the three of you are. I hope you recognize how important and how valuable what you're doing is, because I know that sometimes when you're in the battle, when you're doing, you don't appreciate yourselves. And so I want to make sure that you know that I appreciate you, and I'm sure that others do, for the work that you're doing. So I give you all applause for doing that. So Amari, let's start with you. Again, tell us what you do and how folks can get in touch with you. So, and also about your organization. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so full-time I'm a hotel broker. And then I've also recently founded the National Institute of Lodging Education. So that's lodgingeducation.com, lodgingeducation.com. And what it's really focused on is closing the knowledge gap on understanding hotel acquisitions and hotel ownership. So a lot of people beat the drum that it's access to capital that's holding specifically Black and Latinx, Latino communities back. While that is a piece of it, I think the bigger piece is that there are capitalized individuals that are not investing in hotels just because nobody's talking to them. Nobody's trying to educate them on what that investment looks like. So that's what I'm doing. It's really focused on, hey, this is how you go from multifamily to hotel. This is how you go from being a restaurateur to hotel owner, and really helping them get their footing and through introductions and through education.
All right, great. Thank you. So folks, you can get in touch with Amari. Mr. Amari Head, thank you so much for what you're doing. My grandfather used to say things like, I might not live to see it, but one day it's going to happen. The work that you're doing now, we might not live to see it all into full fruition, but I tell you what, it's going to happen. Thank you, sir, for what you do. Kathy, tell us more about your role at FIU and how folks can get in touch with you.
So I feel like I have a very special role. My particular position is here to provide career counseling and guidance, and that's through creating career development trainings, workshops. I also work closely with amazing professors like Miranda, who allow me to come to their class and continue to provide amazing development, professional and educational for our students. And if anyone would like to reach me, it could be at kamartin@fiu.edu.
All right, great. Thank you. And Miranda, thank you again for being our partner in this and working with me on many projects and for putting our panel together today. Tell us, how do folks get in touch with you?
Sure. You can always find me on LinkedIn, Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. You can also email me at my FIU address, mkitterl@fiu.edu.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks everyone for watching. But before we go, our producer in the back, her name is Kelly Johnson. Kelly's also a voiceover artist with the Leon Thomas Group, very valuable member of our team. I want to play one of Kelly's pieces, and everyone can check out how good Kelly is. And then I'll be right back after you watch Kelly in action. Here we go.
Renting is everything. It's style at your doorstep, off the runway and into your closet. It's every trend you've been dying to try and every designer you've yet to discover. It's wearing it your way every time and making it count everywhere you go. It's never worrying about what to wear, because something new is always coming your way. That's why renting is everything. New styles, top designers, all for a flat monthly fee. Start your subscription at renttherunway.com.
So that's Kelly. That's Kelly in action. So if you want voiceover work, just contact me. Go to the leonthomasgroup.com. Send me a message. I'll connect you with Kelly, and you'll have some great voiceover and video work on your next piece. Miranda Kitterlin Lynch, thank you. Kathy Martin, thank you. Mr. Amari Head, thank you. Thank you all for being a part of this episode of Real Thoughts and Conversation. I so much appreciate you being here. And to our audience, thank you for watching another episode of Real Thoughts and Conversation. We'll be back next week for some more conversation about things that folks really want to talk about. I'm Leon Thomas. Thanks for watching Real Thoughts and Conversations.